He wanted a seat at the table. Instead, Mickey discovers the cost of admission is far steeper than he ever imagined, especially when innocence becomes collateral. Greetings, ghouls, and welcome to a dive into horror television. Tonight we explore the episode Petty Thieves from The Hitchhiker. We open to Mickey and a group of drug smugglers making a clean transfer of drugs. The cops are watching them, so one man pretends to rob the purse of a woman who takes the drugs from him and puts it into a garbage bin. Then someone else picks up the bag from the trash. It works as planned. Then we check back in with Mickey as he meets with the kingpin, Mr. Strega. Mickey gets paid for completing his task. Mr. Strega tells him to come see him later and bring along his girl Pearl too. Mickey goes to meet Pearl, who's relaxing in bed when he arrives. They kiss passionately, and he gives her a necklace. She worries he's hustling again, but he tells her he has a job. She knows who he's working for, and she knows he's in danger. We learn she's a retired hooker, and she loves Mickey. She wants them to stay off the streets and out of trouble. She wants to start fresh somewhere and leave their problematic past behind. She has a bunch of dolls all around her apartment. Later they go to meet Mr. Strega, and Pearl isn't thrilled. He wants to know why Pearl left the streets. He remembers the tender moments they shared. Mickey pulls a knife on them. He wants to be a bag man. Mr. Strega refuses to make a deal unless he can have Pearl for fun. Pearl must do whatever Mr. Strega wants moving forward. Mickey gets a cash advance, and the deal is done. Pearl starts crying, and she leaves hysterically. All Mickey cares about is advancing his pathetic crime career. When she gets home, she has a nice warm bath. Mickey brought her cake. Pearl refuses to talk to him. He tells her to think of this situation as strictly business, like a wife helping her husband. She laughs in his face, and then he gets handsy and grabs her arm. Pearl starts burning herself with a candle. She doesn't feel anything. Later, Pearl visits Mr. Strega. She strips for him. We cut over to Mickey on a dock. He cuts open a bag and secures 2 bags of drugs. The feds are watching him. Tomorrow they plan to take down the criminals. Then he brings the drugs to Mr. Strega. Mickey wants to do another run tomorrow, but that's not how this operation works. They only use bad guys once. Mickey's not going to make as much money as he expected, so he takes a walk back to the dock with Pearl. He knocks a fisherman out, and then they wait to get the signal from the captain on the ship. Pearl looks for the drugs, but then the police pull up, and there's a chase. Mickey shoots at the cops and takes out the driver. Mickey and Pearl start running when the other cop opens fire. Pearl is shot. Mickey tells her, "We're one, huh, baby?" They get back home, and Pearl doesn't look so good. She dies on the couch. Mickey throws one of her dolls at the wall and it smashes. So Mickey goes to a payphone and tells his crime boss that Pearl split on him. He's told that if he doesn't find her and the drugs, that he's dead. His hand starts to hurt, and he has the same burn mark Pearl had. The bosses laugh. They suspect Pearl and Mickey are on the run now. Mickey is on the streets, and the police are still looking for him. There's a Chinese parade that he walks through. He starts bleeding as he keeps running. He finds a quiet alleyway, and his body is changing. He's becoming Pearl. He even gains her voice. When one of the goons finds him, he tries blaming the whole thing on Pearl and swears that it's him, Mickey. It doesn't matter though, because he's up in smoke. The goons light him on fire. This episode is ridiculous. At its core, Petty Thieves is a story about a relationship hollowed out by exploitation. Mickey claims to love Pearl, but every choice he makes reveals something darker. To him, Pearl is a resource. She represents comfort, affection, and usefulness. His idea of "we're one, huh, baby?" comes across not as intimacy, but as ownership. Pearl is the only person in his world who sees him as more than a criminal errand boy, but instead of valuing that, he treats her body and presence as bargaining chips. The tragedy is that Pearl's love is real, tender, and fragile, while Mickey's version of love is transactional. The episode exposes what happens when affection becomes a mask for manipulation. One person gives everything, and the other person devours it. Pearl's story highlights the way marginalized women are often forced to navigate cycles of exploitation to survive. Her past as a sex worker isn't treated as a moral flaw, but as part of her history, something she's worked tirelessly to leave behind. She's built a small sanctuary filled with sentimental objects, her dolls, her routines, her desire for quiet, but the world around her refuses to let her escape. Mr. Strega sees Pearl not as a person but as a commodity he once sampled. Mickey, desperate to rise in the criminal hierarchy, places her back in that same position. Both men weaponize her history against her, revealing how deeply patriarchal violence shapes her world. Pearl keeps trying to create safety, but every door out leads back into danger. Mickey's ambition is less aspiration than an obsession with proving his masculinity. He wants to be a bagman, a trusted figure in Strega's operation, because it symbolizes success within the narrow, toxic framework he lives in. He believes danger equals respect, but his hunger for status blinds him to every consequence. He can't see who he hurts, and more importantly, he can't see what he's becoming. His recklessness destroys Pearl, ruins his chance at upward mobility, and ultimately consumes him. The episode frames ambition not as the pursuit of a dream, but as a trap built out of insecurity, one that Mickey walks into willingly. Every layer of the plot reveals a criminal ecosystem where people aren't valued, they're used. The smugglers at the beginning treat their participants as interchangeable parts. Mr. Strega only trusts Mickey once and then casts him aside. Pearl is seen as entertainment, Mickey as a tool, and the lower level workers as entirely replaceable. Even Mickey doesn't view the fishermen he knocks out or Pearl herself as anything more than stepping stones. The episode's world is intentionally bleak. In this system, bodies can be bought, traded, and discarded. No one is safe, and no loyalty is real. Mickey's physical transformation into Pearl is the episode's most striking image, and it operates as a symbolic unraveling. It begins with the burn mark mirroring Pearl's earlier injury, suggesting that harm inflicted on another eventually returns to the one who caused it. His body reshaping itself into hers symbolizes the emotional and moral shift he refused to confront. He becomes the person he used, exploited, and ultimately destroyed. The transformation also forces him to experience the vulnerability Pearl lived with every day. It's cosmic justice, not from a deity, but from the narrative logic of the world itself. In a story about exploitation, the abuser becomes his victim, and the cost he tried to offload becomes his own burden. Mickey spends the entire episode trying to build an identity as a criminal professional, someone important, someone feared, but every decision erodes who he is. By the end, his sense of self collapses entirely. He can't outrun what he's done. The moment he becomes Pearl, physically, emotionally, vocally, he loses the last thing he ever truly had, his identity. The story implies that when someone bases their entire self on greed, manipulation, and betrayal, they eventually become nothing. Mickey literally loses his own face, his own voice, and his own life. Though the Hitchhiker often flirts with moral fables, Petty Thieves stands out because the punishment fits the crime in an unnervingly poetic way. Mickey wanted Pearl to sacrifice herself for his benefit. In the end, he is forced to live inside her body, forced to confront the fear and objectification she endured. The violence he unleashed against Pearl, against innocent bystanders, against himself, comes back around, not as karma, but as an unavoidable collapse built into the path he chose. The world he tried to thrive in finally eats him alive. John Colicos played Mr. Strega, and he's known from The Changeling. Marie Lorin played Pearl, and I thought she did a fabulous job. Mickey was played by Steve Railsback, and he's known for playing Ed Gein in the 2000 film Ed Gein. The acting was pretty well done here. There were a few moments where it was pretty bad, like the shootout scene at the docks. Christopher Leach directed this one, and William Darrett and Richard Rothstein wrote the script. I think everyone did good. The writing could have been a little sharper. Why did they establish that Pearl had a creepy doll collection? I was expecting that to be an important part of the story towards the end, but no, they went in a different direction I couldn't have guessed with 100 guesses. The ending was silly and felt random as hell, to be honest. The show is hilarious. Overall, I'll rate this episode a 6 out of 10 for The Hitchhiker. The The show has some must-see episodes and some serious stinkers, and this one was somewhere in the middle. Let me know your thoughts down below, and until next time, remember to be well and stay spooky.